Hello everyone. In this video we're going to learn how to convert an NFA to a DFA. In order to complete a conversion from an NFA to a DFA, we're going to have to follow 4 steps. In the first step, we'll create a new state, a trash state, and we'll add transitions such that every state has at least one transition of every letter. Meaning, if there's a state that does not have a transition coming out of it with one of the letters, we'll add a transition from that state directly to the trash state we have added. Now we'll move on to step number 2. In this step, we'll start creating our DFA. We'll create our state Q0 by combining all the start states in the NFA. Next, we'll move on to step number 3, where we'll continue to convert the states until there are no more states left to convert. I'll show you how to do this in our example. We'll do it using a table. Next, we'll move on to our final step, where we'll define the accepting states of our DFA according to the accepting states in the original NFA. Now we'll do an example, and I hope that when we finish the example, the 4 steps of the conversion are going to be a little more clear to everyone. So we're given the following NFA, and our first step is to add a trash state and add all the missing transitions. So we'll check every state separately and see which transitions are missing. So first we'll do Q0, and we can see that there is a transition A and a transition B. So we don't need to add any transitions from Q0 to our new trash state, which is Q4. Then we'll move to Q1, and we can see that there is a transition B, and here's another transition B and a self loop transition B, but we can see that it doesn't have any transition A coming out of it. So we're going to have to add a transition from Q1 to our new trash state Q4. Now we'll move on to Q2. We can see it doesn't have any transitions coming out of it, only transitions going into it, except the lambda transition. So we're going to have to add a transition A and a transition B from Q2 to Q4, our trash state. And finally, Q3. We see there's a transition B coming out of Q3 and a transition A. So we don't have to add any transitions from Q3. And finally, the transition itself, the trash state, will add a self loop A, B to ensure it has both A and B transitions coming out of it. After completing step 1, we can move on to step number 2. We'll create a new state in our new DFA, which combines all the start states in the NFA. We'll do this by looking at our NFA and checking which states can be reached from our start state Q0 without any transitions of A or B. So by looking at the NFA, we can see that we can reach Q1 by a lambda transition, meaning we do not use any transition of A or B. So Q1 is going to be in our start state. We can see there are no other states we can reach only by a lambda transition. So our new start state is going to be Q0, Q1. So after step 2, we see that our current DFA has one state. This is our start state, which is Q0 and Q1, because these are the states that can be reached from Q0 without any transitions, like we said before. So after completing step 2, we'll move on to step 3. In order to convert states in the NFA to states in the DFA, we're going to have to create the following table. We'll go state by state and see, using each transition, A or B, which states can be reached. So first, let's see Q0. From Q0, using the transition A, we can reach Q1, but we can also reach Q4. We can do that by using the transition lambda from Q0 to Q1, and then using the transition A to reach Q4. So from Q0, we can reach Q1 and Q4 using the transition A. Now let's move on to B. From Q0, using the transition B, we can reach Q2. But we can also reach Q1 and Q3. We can do that by using the transition lambda to reach Q1, and then we can use a transition B to reach Q3, or a self-transition B to reach Q1. So we'll continue doing that process for every single one of the states. After completing the table, we'll move on to the next step of the conversion. Our DFA now has a single state. Start state Q0, Q1. We add two transitions, transition A and transition B, and add new states according to the data in the table we created. So we'll start with transition A. We'll create a new state according to the states that can be reached by a transition A in the original NFA. We'll use the table to easily see this. So first, we'll look at our start state. Our start state has Q0 and Q1. So we'll check according to the table which states can be reached using a transition A. So first we'll check Q0. We can see from the state Q0, using a transition A, we can reach the states Q1 and Q4. Then we'll check Q1. Using a transition A, we can once again reach the state Q4. So from our start state, using a transition A, we can reach states Q1 and Q4. So we'll create a new state called Q1, Q4. So now we'll do the exact same process for the transition B. We'll look at our table once again and see which states can be reached from Q0 using the transition B, and which states can be reached from Q1 using the transition B. So first we see that states Q1, Q2, and Q3 can be reached from Q0 using a transition B. From the state Q1 using a transition B, we can reach Q1 and Q3. So Q1 and Q3, these states appear here as well. So we'll sum it up as a new state called Q1, Q2, and Q3. We'll repeat this process over and over again for every new state we add to our DFA. We will continue to repeat this process until we do not need to add any more states to our DFA. This will happen when all the states that we'd like the new A and B transitions to point to exist already in the DFA, meaning we don't need to create any new states. So for our last step, we'll look at the original NFA and we'll see which states were accepting states. So if we look at our original NFA right here, we can see there's only one state that is an accepting state, and that is Q1. Now we'll go back to our DFA and we'll make all the states that have the state Q1 in them accepting states. So after finishing step number 4, we have our final DFA. Thank you everyone for watching. Please comment, rate, and most importantly, please subscribe.